The galaxy had always known the sound of humanity. It was not a sound of noise or chaos, but the hum of their presence. Wherever humans traveled, life seemed to move faster. Their ships sang across trade lanes, their voices filled councils, and their laughter echoed in colonies spread far and wide. Humans were not the strongest, not the most advanced, not even the oldest species among the stars. Yet somehow they were everywhere. They were builders, explorers, dreamers, and mediators. Where two alien powers argued for centuries, a human would step in with simple words and strange wisdom that often made both sides pause. Where dangerous frontiers scared others, humans rushed forward, driven by curiosity more than fear. And then one day it all stopped. It began quietly. A single human outpost on the edge of the spiral arm stopped responding. Traders thought it was a storm of radiation that damaged communications. Military fleets assumed pirates had attacked. But when scouts arrived, they found the outpost intact. Every machine still working, every system powered, but every human gone. The neighboring systems laughed at first. Humans are dramatic, they said. Perhaps it is a trick. Perhaps they want to test our patience. But within weeks, more silence spread. A colony world with 10 million humans went dark. Then a shipyard, once busy with construction, floated in orbit without a single worker. A fleet of exploration vessels returned to dock without their crews. Everywhere, humans were simply gone, leaving behind tools, cities, and dreams. The galaxy shivered, though no one admitted it. The Kalari Dominion, a proud reptilian empire, held an emergency meeting. Their high council sat around a golden table, staring at the reports. "This cannot be real," one elder hissed. "No species vanishes in days." A younger Kalari answered softly, "And yet here we are." In the union of 12 suns, a coalition of bird-like species, traders began to panic. Human ships had been the safest carriers between rival powers. Without them, routes grew dangerous. Pirates emerged like insects, feeding on weakness. The Altheri scholars, beings of crystal and light, gathered in their knowledge halls. They reviewed thousands of years of history. "Never has such a thing happened," they said. "Even fallen empires leave ruins of war or signs of plague. But this is silence, not death." World by world, system by system, humanity disappeared. Some species cheered in secret. They had always been jealous of the humans' influence, of their ability to unite where others divided. "Now," they whispered, "we will rise without them." But even they felt unease. On the great Galactic Council Station, a place where dozens of species met to discuss peace, the human seats remained empty. The council leader, a massive creature with 4 arms and silver skin, tapped the wooden gavel. His deep voice echoed, "The representatives of Earth are not here." For the first time in centuries, the chamber felt smaller. Days turned to months. Months turned to years. No message arrived, no explanation came. Entire sectors once alive with human colonies became quiet zones. Scouts sent inside found working cities without people. Farms harvested by machines continued without hands to guide them. Children's toys lay in the dust of empty homes. The galaxy began to argue. The Sarathi Confederation, insectoid in form and sharp in speech, demanded action. "They have abandoned us. They were untrustworthy all along." The gentle Lurani, aquatic beings who thrived on peace, shook their heads. "No, they were our friends. They saved us from famine. They helped us rebuild after war. Humans would not vanish without reason." But reason was nowhere to be found. Rumors spread. Some claimed the humans had discovered a higher dimension and left the galaxy behind. Others whispered of a secret pact, where humans promised to return only when the galaxy deserved them. A few dark voices suggested humans had grown tired of carrying everyone else's burdens and simply walked away. For the ordinary citizen on alien worlds, the loss felt heavier each day. A merchant missed the loud human traders who bargained with smiles. A soldier remembered the humans who stood by their side in hopeless battles. A child on a distant moon asked their parents, "Will the humans ever come back?" No one could answer. Years later, scholars would call this moment the Great Silence. But in those first years, it felt more like the Great Loss. The galaxy had taken humanity for granted, never imagining a future without them. Now every world, every council, every heart began to realize the same truth. Something precious was missing. The silence was not only in the empty cities or abandoned ships. It was in the halls of power, in the corners of trade stations, in the stars themselves. For the first time in ages, the galaxy felt lonely, and so began the long wait. The Kalari posted guards at human borders, hoping one day to see them return. The Altheri built vast libraries, trying to preserve human culture so it would not fade. The Lurani sang songs of hope into the oceans, praying the sound might somehow reach the vanished friends. But the Sarathi and others saw opportunity. They expanded into former human lands, taking resources and claiming worlds. Still, even they could not escape the strange weight of absence. Because everywhere they went, humans had left behind marks: a simple stone statue of two hands clasped, a library filled with shared stories, a child's drawing taped to the wall of a starship. And in those quiet moments, when the stars burned without human voices to fill the space between, even the coldest leaders whispered a question they dared not ask aloud. What have we done to make them leave? The day humanity walked away forever had begun, and the echoes of regret were already stirring in the hearts of the galaxy. The silence of humanity spread like a cold wind through the galaxy. What had started as a few lost colonies was now a wide emptiness that no one could explain. In the first months, leaders had spoken with calm voices, promising answers. But as years passed, the calm cracked and confusion took its place. The galaxy was not a quiet place before. Empires argued, merchants traded, and explorers searched the stars. But humans had always been a bridge in that chaos. They were the hands that shook between rivals, the ships that carried goods to distant markets, and the faces that smiled even in war zones. Without them, everything began to feel uncertain. On the central council station where leaders of many species gathered, debates grew longer and harsher. The silver-skinned Vayari pounded their fists on the table. We cannot continue without answers. If humanity has left us, we must find out why. The insect-like Sarathi clicked their mandibles in agreement, or perhaps they planned something in secret. We must not trust their empty silence. But the gentle Lurani, water-dwellers who spoke in flowing tones, shook their heads. No, we know humans. They gave without asking much in return. They saved us during the Great Famine. They would not abandon us unless something deeper had happened. The debates never ended in agreement. Every species looked at humanity's disappearance through the lens of its own history. Some saw betrayal, some saw mystery, and some saw tragedy. Outside the chambers of power, ordinary citizens felt the absence in everyday life. A merchant on the trade world of Kalor missed the loud voices of human traders, who always bargained with humor instead of anger. Now the markets felt quieter, colder. A soldier in the Union of 12 Suns remembered fighting beside humans during a border war. They never backed down, he told his children. They always stood with us. But now, when he looked at the sky, he wondered if they would ever stand there again. Confusion deepened when scouts returned from human worlds with strange reports. The cities were untouched, the machines still working, and even the food supplies still fresh. Yet there were no signs of struggle, no bodies, no destruction. It was as if humans had simply stood up one day and walked away. The Altheri, beings of crystal light, studied the evidence with patience. In their great libraries, they gathered every report. No disease, they said. No war, no explosion. This is not death, it is departure. Their words only added to the confusion. Departure for where? Departure for what? Theories multiplied like stars. Some said humanity had found a higher plane of existence, a door to another universe. Others whispered of ancient powers calling them away. The Sarathi even accused them of plotting to return with new weapons to dominate the galaxy. But beneath all the noise, one thought troubled even the loudest voices. What if humanity had left by choice? The thought spread slowly like a seed growing in silence. It unsettled leaders more than any theory of disaster, because if humans had chosen to leave, it meant they had grown tired of the galaxy itself. Confusion turned into small cracks across galactic society. Trade routes collapsed first. Humans had often carried goods between empires that did not trust each other. Without them, suspicion returned. Pirates grew bold. Knowing fewer ships dared the dangerous paths. Entire worlds began to starve as supplies stopped arriving. Then came the wars. Old grudges, once softened by human mediation, rose again. The Kalari and the Sarathi clashed at their border, blaming each other for the chaos. The Union of 12 Suns accused the Vayari of stealing shipments. In the shadows of human silence, conflict returned like weeds in a forgotten garden. But not all species turned to anger. Some turned to sorrow. The Lyrani oceans sang songs of remembrance, hoping their voices would travel through the stars and reach humanity, wherever they had gone. The Eltheri carved crystal monuments glowing with human stories and art, so their memory would not fade. Even the Kalari, proud and warlike, kept human statues standing in their cities, though they pretended not to care. Confusion was not only in politics and trade. It was in hearts. Children asked, why did the humans go? Elders told stories of the times when humans brought joy and laughter, when they solved problems with strange ideas that no one else had imagined. But even they could not explain why those friends had left. A century passed, but the confusion never faded. Instead, it grew into regret. The archives revealed recordings, old human voices warning the galaxy. If you cannot find peace, one they had said. If you continue your endless wars, one day we may have no place among you. The recordings were ignored in their time, brushed aside as dramatic words. But now, with the silence of humanity echoing in every star, those voices felt heavier than stone. Did we drive them away? Some asked. Did they see us as hopeless? On the world of Uranus, a young scholar stood before a crowd, holding a cracked data tablet. Humans believed in unity, she said. They wanted us to grow beyond old hatreds. And we failed them. Maybe they waited, maybe they hoped, but in the end they saw no change. And so they left. Her words spread like fire, carried on broadcasts and whispers. Confusion turned into guilt. Still, not everyone agreed. The Sarathi leaders dismissed such talk. Do not mourn them. They left of their own will. That is betrayal. But in secret, even Sarathi citizens lit candles in memory of human friends they once had. The galaxy was divided, some angry, some sorrowful, all confused. But one truth became clear. Nothing was the same without humanity. Trade was weaker, wars were harsher, and even hope felt dimmer. In every council hall, in every marketplace, in every home, the question remained unanswered. Where did they go, and why did they leave us behind? And though confusion filled the stars, one thing was certain. Humanity's silence had changed everything, and the galaxy would never forget the day it began. 100 years had passed since the last human voice was heard in the galaxy. The stars still burned, the empires still ruled, but the absence of humanity had become a wound that never healed. At first, many had expected humans to return suddenly, laughing at the galaxy's panic, claiming it had all been a test. But the years stretched on, and the silence remained. It was during this long century that regret began to spread. At first, it came quietly, like a whisper no one wanted to admit aloud. The Sarathi still claimed that humanity's disappearance was a betrayal. The Kalari spoke proudly that their empire did not need humans. But among their citizens, in homes and markets, the truth was different. They missed them. In the union of 12 suns, young children asked their teachers about the humans. Were they real? Did they truly fight for others even when it was not their war? The elders nodded, remembering old stories. Yes, they said. Humans stood beside us in battles we thought we could not win. They held the line when others ran. They did not always succeed, but they never gave up. The children listened with wide eyes. To them, humans were like legends, half myth, half truth. Meanwhile, the archives of countless worlds revealed forgotten recordings. On the world of Calanth, a historian found an ancient human speech stored in a broken console. The voice of a human diplomat echoed through the hall. We ask only for peace. If you cannot end your wars, if you cannot stop your endless anger, then one day we may have no choice but to walk away. And when we do, you will feel the emptiness we leave behind. The hall fell silent when the recording ended. The historian closed his eyes and whispered, "They warned us, and we did not listen." Similar discoveries spread across the stars. In hidden files, in dusty storage, in old treaties, humanity's words returned. Warnings, hopes, and dreams. Reminders that they had always believed the galaxy could be better, and slowly, species began to realize the same painful truth. Perhaps humanity had not been taken by disaster. Perhaps they had chosen to leave. The first signs of regret appeared in small acts. On the Kalari homeworld, a soldier who once fought. Beside human allies built a small stone marker in his garden. On it he carved a simple message, to the ones who stayed when no one else did. His neighbors came to see it, and soon, other markers appeared across the city. In the oceans of Lyra, the singers created new songs that carried through the waves. The songs told of human explorers who came to their waters not to conquer but to learn. They sang of the humans' laughter, of their strange music, of their stubborn kindness. These songs spread beyond the seas, carried on recordings to other worlds. Even among the Sarathi who spoke harshly of betrayal, regret crept in quietly. Farmers remembered how human engineers had helped design irrigation for dry lands. Pilots remembered how human captains had once rescued them in battles. They did not speak their sorrow aloud, but in private they told their families, "We miss them." Meanwhile, the galaxy itself showed signs of decay without humanity's presence. Trade was weaker, exploration slowed, new discoveries came less often. The daring spirit humans had carried, the willingness to leap into the unknown, was gone. Other species explored cautiously, carefully, but none carried the same hunger for discovery. The stars felt smaller without humans to chase their mysteries. Conflicts grew sharper too. Humans had often acted as mediators, strange outsiders who could speak to both sides. Without them, disputes turned into wars more easily. Worlds burned that once might have been saved. In this climate, a new movement began to rise. It started small, among scholars, traders, and veterans. They called themselves the Keepers of Memory. Their goal was simple, to remember humanity not as myths but as truth. In the Union of 12 Suns, the Keepers held meetings where they told stories of human bravery and kindness. In the Kalari Dominion, they gathered artifacts humans had left behind, books, paintings, tools. In the Altheri libraries, they created shining halls filled with human knowledge, keeping it alive for future generations. At first, the leaders of empires ignored them. Some even mocked them. "Why honor those who abandoned us?" they sneered. But the movement grew. Ordinary people joined, carrying their own memories and stories. A merchant who once traded with humans displayed a necklace gifted by a human friend. A scientist shared an old star map drawn by a human explorer. A farmer kept a plow designed by human hands. Soon the Keepers of Memory were everywhere, and with them regret spread wider. Children grew up hearing human stories not as distant history but as lessons. They believed in unity, teachers said. They believed we could rise above our divisions, and when we failed, they left. For many, this realization struck harder than any war. It was not that humans had vanished without explanation. It was that the galaxy itself had given them reason to go. The regret reached even into the hearts of rulers. On the Kalari throne world, the High Lord walked through his palace and stopped before a statue of a human soldier, one of the many who had fallen in battle long ago to defend Kalari citizens. He stood in silence, the memory heavy. Later, he admitted in private to his advisors, "We thought them weak. But it is we who are weak, clinging to old hatreds." Perhaps they saw that weakness and turned away. The Altheri, glowing with crystal light, wrote entire volumes on the philosophy of regret. They described humanity as a mirror that had shown the galaxy its own flaws. Without the mirror, they said, the galaxy was blind. And across the stars, ordinary people began to dream. They dreamed of what it would mean if humanity returned. Some dreamed of forgiveness, some of hope, some of the laughter and boldness that once filled the void between stars. But the silence remained. No signal, no ships, no return, only regret. Yet in that regret, something new began to grow. Species that had once hated each other began to speak of peace again, not out of trust, but out of longing. If we cannot unite for ourselves, some said, let us unite so that if humanity ever looks back, they will see we tried. It was not unity yet, but it was a beginning. And so the first signs of regret turned into the first sparks of change. The galaxy, long divided, now shared one common sorrow: the absence of humanity. And perhaps deep in their silence, that was what humans had intended all along: to leave behind not only emptiness but the chance for the galaxy to finally learn. The galaxy had changed since humanity's disappearance. Trade routes once full of human ships lay silent. Wars, fueled by old grudges, had left scars across countless worlds. But even amid the chaos, one thought persisted among all species: the humans were gone, and they had left without a trace. Some had given up hope. Many assumed that the humans would never return, but others refused to accept this silence. They believed that somewhere, out beyond the farthest known systems, humanity had left signs, secrets, or paths that might reveal where they had gone. It began with small expeditions. A few daring explorers, often operating alone, ventured to the abandoned human colonies. They searched the cities, examined the ships, and analyzed the data left behind. Each team hoped for a clue, a signal, anything. The first expeditions returned with strange reports. Humans had left no messages, no maps, no instructions. Cities were clean, powered, and ready for life, but empty. Machines ran automatically, still performing tasks humans had started before vanishing. Gardens continued to bloom. Factories still produced goods. Ships sat in orbit, engines humming, but no one was at the controls. One scout ship reported, "It is as if they simply stood up and walked into the stars." Galactic leaders decided it was time for a more organized effort. They formed the Coalition of Search, a group of diplomats, explorers, and scientists from multiple species. Their mission: find humanity, or at least discover the reason for their disappearance. The coalition faced challenges immediately. They had no coordinates, no active signals, and no timeline beyond centuries of human absence. Yet they refused to stop. They understood that humanity was more than a species. They were a force that had shaped the galaxy's future. Losing them was not only a personal sorrow, but a loss of guidance for generations. The first large expedition left from the Union of 12 Suns, a fleet of ships designed to last decades in deep space. Human technology, still powerful and mysterious, had been carefully studied and copied, allowing these ships to reach regions no other species could. Captain Tira Valen, a Kalari commander, led the fleet. She had never met a human in person, but she had heard the stories, studied their tactics, and marveled at their courage. She spoke to her crew, her voice steady. "We may find nothing. We may find everything, but we must go forward. The humans believe the galaxy could be better. If we can find them, perhaps we can understand why they left." Their first stop was a remote human colony near the edge of the known galaxy. Once thriving with life, it now stood silent. Ships in orbit gleamed in the sun, waiting as if their crews would return. Inside the city, streets were lined with human homes, workshops, and schools. Machines ran errands automatically. Water flowed through fountains. Children's toys sat on the ground, untouched. The team explored the city with reverence. They recorded everything. Maps, star charts, and holographic logs were copied and stored. One scientist, an Altheri named Lumea, touched the controls of a ship, whispering, "They left, but they left beauty behind." Days turned into weeks, and still, no human was found. Yet every exploration yielded small clues. Symbols carved into walls, messages left in encrypted data cores, and star charts pointing outward. All seemed intentional. Almost like breadcrumbs, leading explorers toward the unknown. Meanwhile, reports of similar searches spread across the galaxy. Independent groups found more signs of human intelligence. A library of knowledge on a distant moon contained writings about unity, peace, and hope. An observatory station recorded star maps not seen anywhere else, with paths that seemed to point beyond known space. Even pirates and smugglers spoke of strange human signals picked up while hiding in asteroid belts. They could not understand them, but some claimed the signals pulsed with purpose, as if inviting others to follow. As decades passed, the coalition built the Great Archive, a massive structure orbiting a neutral planet. All discovered human artifacts, recordings, and star maps were stored there. Scholars from every species worked to decode the signs, hoping that even a single clue could reveal humanity's path. In the process, new bonds formed between species. Where humans had once been mediators, the coalition members now learned to trust each other for the first time. Old rivals working together to find humans began to see one another differently. Perhaps, thought many, this was part of humanity's legacy. Even in absence, they taught unity. Captain Tira's fleet pushed beyond the farthest known systems. They ventured into uncharted regions where starlight was faint and navigation was dangerous. The crew endured storms of radiation, meteor fields, and the cold emptiness of space. And yet they pressed onward, inspired by stories of human courage. One day, on the edge of a nebula with colors no living being had named, the fleet discovered a strange signal. It was weak, irregular, but undeniably human in design. The signal pulsed in intervals like a heartbeat. Sensors detected that it was coming from a massive structure beyond the nebula, a structure larger than any human building ever recorded. The fleet approached cautiously. Captain Tira's voice was calm but full of emotion. "We are close," she said. "Whatever awaits us, it is theirs. We must honor it." When they arrived, they found something extraordinary. A colossal gateway floated silently in the void. Its surface shimmered with human technology, glowing with energy that pulsed rhythmically. Symbols carved into its frame were immediately recognizable to the scholars aboard, the signature of human design. This is not a city," whispered Lumea. "It is a monument, a machine, and perhaps a message all in one." Attempts to activate the gateway failed. It seemed designed for human presence alone. Every crew member, regardless of skill or species, found it impossible to open. The gateway responded only to signals that matched a human genetic signature. For the first time, the coalition understood something vital. Humanity had not disappeared randomly. They had chosen to leave, creating a path that others could not follow. Their departure had been intentional and perhaps permanent, yet hope remained. Even if humans could not be found, their final work, the gateway, the messages, the records, spoke to a truth that echoed through the galaxy. Humans had cared deeply, and they had left signs for those willing to search. Captain Tira stood before the gateway and addressed her crew. "We may never see them. We may never speak to them. But humanity has shown us something important. They have left the galaxy better than they found it, and they trusted us to learn from their absence." The crew watched the gateway pulse. Some wept, some smiled. All felt the weight of humanity's legacy. Across the galaxy, the coalition continued its search. More expeditions followed the star charts, the messages, and the clues humans had left. Each discovery deepened the mystery but also strengthened resolve. Humanity had walked away, but they had not vanished entirely. Their presence lingered in their works, their stories, and their hope for a better galaxy. And in the silence between stars, one thought grew louder with every passing day. Even absent, humanity had not abandoned the galaxy entirely. They had left it with a chance to rise, to change, and perhaps one day to be worthy of their return. The discovery of the massive human gateway sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Every species that had ever known humans watched from afar, hoping for some signal, some message, some hint of their fate. But the gateway remained silent, pulsing with energy and mystery, responding only to human presence. Captain Tira Valen's fleet remained stationed near the structure. Scholars, diplomats, and explorers studied it day and night, mapping every line, every symbol, every pattern of light. They compared it with the artifacts stored in the Great Archive, and slowly the pieces began to fit together. Humans had not simply vanished. They had left behind a path, a final message for the galaxy to interpret. Lumea, the Altheri scientist, spoke with wonder. "This gateway is more than a machine. It is a statement. Humans did not just disappear. They are telling us something. Something important." The coalition spent months decoding symbols and analyzing energy pulses. Then finally they found it, a recording, embedded deep within the gateway's core, a holographic message that activated when the energy patterns were carefully aligned. The projection filled the void with a human figure. They were not alive in the physical sense, but a perfect representation, speaking with calm authority and warmth. The voice carried across all communications networks, reaching fleets and stations in real time, even distant colonies. "We are here," the hologram said. "But we are not among you. We have walked beyond your reach, beyond the known galaxy. We did not leave because of anger or fear. We left because the galaxy needed a choice. We could not remain while the lessons of unity, peace, and courage went unlearned. Perhaps one day when the galaxy is ready, we will return. Silence followed the message. Not a silence of fear, but of understanding. The words echoed in every mind and every heart. For centuries, species had taken humans for granted, expecting their guidance, their courage, their patience. And now, for the first time, they understood. Humanity had given them freedom along with responsibility. Captain Tira stepped forward, her voice shaking slightly. They gave us everything, and trusted us to use it wisely, and we have not yet learned. Across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate. Scholars debated, leaders reflected, and ordinary citizens wept. Children asked their elders, will they come back? And the elders, though uncertain, whispered, only if we are ready. The hologram continued, showing scenes of humanity's work across the galaxy, cities built in harmony with nature, explorers reaching new worlds, mediators settling disputes between warring species. Every image reminded the galaxy of what had been lost and what might one day return. The Sarathi, long suspicious and harsh in their judgments, felt something shift inside. Even their leaders, who had called humanity's departure betrayal, could not ignore the truth. The humans had not abandoned them out of cruelty. They had left to challenge the galaxy to grow stronger, to rise above its divisions. Meanwhile, Captain Tira's fleet explored further. Scanning the surrounding region for more clues, they discovered supply stations, hidden observation posts, and star maps that humans had constructed in secret. Each map pointed to regions beyond the known galaxy, suggesting that humans had discovered or settled in new worlds. The gateway was not just a monument, it was a portal, a doorway to the frontier humans had chosen for themselves. Yet despite the discoveries, no humans were present. The gateway could not be opened by anyone who was not human. It was a symbol of choice, a lesson in patience, and a test of responsibility. Humanity had left a challenge. The galaxy could learn and grow, but it could not follow blindly. Back on the Coalition base, Lumea addressed the assembly. We have learned the truth. Humans are not gone forever. They live, but they live apart. They have given us the chance to understand ourselves, to build without leaning on them. Perhaps one day, when the galaxy truly deserves it, we will see them again. And yet, the revelation carried weighty consequences. Many species felt regret, painful, deep regret. The galaxy had squandered centuries of guidance, ignored warnings, and allowed conflicts to flare. Humans had been patient, enduring, and compassionate. Yet they had walked away when it became clear that lessons went unlearned. Trade resumed more carefully. Exploration was renewed with purpose, and scholars worked to implement the ideas humans had left behind. Slowly, the galaxy began to change. Alliances formed, disputes were settled without violence, and forgotten knowledge was restored. Humans had not returned, but their legacy acted as a guide, a moral compass pointing toward unity, courage, and hope. Captain Tira looked out across the void from her flagship. They trusted us to learn, she said softly. And we are only beginning. In time, stories of the gateway and the human hologram spread across civilizations. Children who had never seen a human learned of their kindness, courage, and patience. Songs and poems were composed in their honor. Statues were erected in cities across the galaxy. Humanity, though absent, had become immortal in memory, teaching lessons that could not be forgotten. Even the Sarathi, once doubtful, began contributing to these memorials. They carved monuments, preserved artifacts, and shared stories of battles fought alongside humans. A strange unity emerged, a galaxy-wide acknowledgement that humans had shaped the course of history, and even in absence, they continued to guide the future. The gateway remained a mystery. Scholars studied it daily, recording every pulse and pattern, trying to understand its deeper purpose. Some believed it was a test, others a gift, but all agreed on one thing. Humanity had chosen to leave so the galaxy could grow stronger on its own. They had walked away, yes, but they had left wisdom behind, a chance for species to rise above their past. Years passed. Humanity remained absent, but their influence spread farther than ever before. New leaders emerged, inspired by their example. Peace agreements, once impossible, were signed. Exploration continued boldly, guided by human maps and designs. And everywhere the question remained. If humanity judged the galaxy ready, would they return? Captain Tira, now older, stood once more before the gateway. It pulsed quietly as if waiting. She whispered, "Perhaps one day we will see them again. And when that day comes, we will be ready." The galaxy had learned slowly and painfully the truth of humanity's departure. It was not abandonment. It was trust. It was patience. It was a challenge to rise above selfishness, conflict, and fear. And as civilizations looked to the stars, they realized that the humans who had walked away forever had left something far greater than themselves, a chance for the galaxy to be worthy of their return.